The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to those expressing them and do not necessarily reflect the OSIP Foundation Incorporated or any other group or individual. This podcast may contain dialogue or subject material that could be considered for mature audiences only. All aspects of how you play the game and the OSIP Foundation Incorporated are protected by copyright and other state and federal intellectual property laws. Unauthorized use without the express written consent of the OSIP Foundation Incorporated is strictly prohibited. If you're interested in sponsoring How You Play the Game, please email us at podcast@osipfoundation.org. Your sponsorship may be tax deductible. Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of How You Play the Game, the official podcast of the OSIP Foundation Incorporated. Yours truly, Jack Furlong, with you as we talk to you about what's going on as far as the world of sportsmanship is concerned. This is the second episode of the month of December. The year is 2024. Hope you're all having a wonderful holiday season. As always, you can check us out online at osipfoundation.org. You can contact the show with the email address podcast@osipfoundation.org. You can check us out online at facebook.com/OSIP Foundation. X and Instagram are both at OSIP Foundation, hashtag How You Play the Game. Excuse me. Today, the big thing that I want to look at is something that came across my desk, courtesy of ESPN, and then the news about it has been reposted and reported on a bunch of other news sites. And it deals with a situation in the state of Ohio where a state representative, Josh Williams, introduced a bill that would classify flag planting at Ohio Stadium a felony. And this goes back to the whole fact that when Ohio State and Michigan played last month, there was an incident with a flag being planted when Michigan won, and it resulted in a major fracas, and pepper spray was used. There was a big fallout where the Big Ten issued $100,000 fines to both schools. It got some momentum, and then there were additional incidents throughout the country where in college football a flag was planted as a celebration in collegiate sports, and essentially, this has gained momentum as a celebratory thing that just for whatever reason has caused additional incidents of poor sportsmanship. These fights have broken out. It has become a monster that does not need to exist. And Williams introduced this bill, and essentially what happens with his bill is that it reads that specifically, no person shall plant a flagpole with a flag attached to it in the center of the football field at Ohio Stadium of the Ohio State University on the day of a college football competition, whether before, during, or after the competition. Whoever violates this section is guilty of a felony of the 5th degree. And for reference, a 5th degree felony in Ohio is the least severe and carries a penalty of 6 to 12 months in prison, up to a $2,500 fine, and up to 5 years probation. So let's begin with why Williams proposed this. Here are some direct quotes from Williams. He says, quote, "After it happened at 5 separate games during rivalry week and seeing that there was no immediate movement, I thought it was necessary to send a signal to our institutions of higher learning that they need to come up with policies to prevent this in the future so it doesn't risk harm to our law enforcement officers or student athletes or fans. Ohio State, Michigan is the number one rivalry in all of sports. Let's calm down there, buddy. Not just college sports, and to see it devolve all the way down to this level, it just disrespects not only the institution, but the college programs themselves. More importantly, it provided a true safety hazard." So really the only thing that really stands out to me there is I would suggest that he go back and revisit his quote about Ohio State, Michigan being the number one rivalry in all of sports. I do not believe that is a claim that will hold up very well. So let me just get that out on the table. All right. He continues to describe it by saying that the bill is a quote, a shot across the bow, putting our institutions on notice. In response to the $100,000 fine being levied to both Ohio State and Michigan, he said, quote, "That's pennies, that's nothing." When Michigan coach Sharon Moore also mimicked flag planting while appearing on the video board at the school's men's basketball game recently against Iowa, and the crowd roared. He says, quote, "That indicates that institution is not taking this incident seriously. We're bragging about it, and it's going to continue in the future, and that's going to cause increased risk, increased security costs, and potential for violence as a result of a college football game." He says, quote, at the end of this article, "We have a great rivalry. I enjoy the rivalry, win, lose, or draw. That was a tight game. It wasn't a blowout victory. No, Michigan should have taken its victory, and we take our loss on the chin and live to fight another day, concentrate on the next week and the next year, the next recruitment period. But instead, we have to have this conversation." So really my only issue with it from this standpoint thus far is Williams' take that their rivalry is the biggest in sports. Apparently, he's never heard of Yankees Red Sox. He's never heard of, Lakers Celtics. He's never heard of Giants Cowboys. Lafayette Lehigh. I mean, where do you want to go with this? I would just recommend that he revisit that. Okay. Now, with that being said, the response to this has been maddening because there are so many people who have come out actually against this. If you scroll the interwebs on, let's say, Reddit or on X or Barstool Sports, any company like that, any site like that. If you listen to talk radio, I just heard it on the Michael Kay show. All of these mediums, the media, the response is very, this is the lamest thing ever. Are you kidding me? We're wasting our time with this, etc. And when I first read this morning, well before I taped this episode, I wanted to sit on it, and I said, okay. I'm not sure if this is the best use of our time politically, but by the same token, I understand what he's saying. And I said, let me sit on this, let me think about it, and let's see where it goes. So then I start reading this stuff, I start hearing this stuff, and I got really fired up. And I said, you people who think that this is a joke, I'm starting to think, like, emotionally, I'm now supporting this. When I first read this, my first impression as a man who champions sportsmanship was to say, okay, might not be 100% necessary. Now that I see the response from other people, I'm realizing just how necessary it is. Yes, you can make many cogent arguments that go against this. You don't like it? Play better, win, etc. Okay, yeah. I'm not going to refute that. I'm not going to have a debate over it. I'm not going to try and tell people that they're wrong about that kind of stuff, because I was there and I felt that, and I thought, like, not sure this is the best use of our time. However, when you compare the responses and the decorum, you start to see how these things go. Williams here is trying to give a very cogent, educated response. He's trying to make his case he's not, he's talking about the goodness of trying to maintain sportsmanship and civility and decorum and keeping our law enforcement safe and our student athletes safe, and send a message to these institutions that we can't have this stuff. Okay? All of the critics, on the other hand, are essentially just attacking it and just saying this is stupid, this is ridiculous. Like, there were even some people who went after Williams himself, posted his picture and say, yeah, he looks like a loser, kind of a thing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is your argument against this, is to look at the guy who proposed the bill and said he looks like a loser? That, to me, is absolutely absurd. And I feel insulted by it. And to me, this also is a metaphor for how so much of the narrative in our country goes anyway. We don't have civil discourse. We don't have conversations anymore. We have fights. We attack. We're so stuck up on attack ads and being associated with the winner and punching down, that when someone tries to make an argument like this, whether we agree with it or not, we respond in very inappropriate ways. And that, to me, is really upsetting. That's sad. That is a major indictment that on our society. Like, I'll give you an example. All right. When I Googled the Ohio Sportsmanship Act, okay, one of the first, within like the first 3 results that came up was Reddit. And the thread was for the Michigan Wolverines. And this is what it says on this page for the comments of Michigan Wolverines. This was posted 5 hours before I started taping this. Whoever wrote this says, quote, "This is the saddest thing I have ever seen. They have officially become the poorest losers of any team in any sport I have ever seen. They're like 5-year-old crying." Can't even get the grammar right. They're like 5-year-old crying over their juice box after losing their T-ball championship. This is bad for Ohio State, bad for the rivalry, and just embarrassing for their entire state. This is it, though. We have literally broken them. They may as well have just made it a felony for an away team to win at Ohio Stadium. Clowns, the entire state. I used to hate them, but at least respect the fact that they had an elite team. I have lost all respect. Are you kidding me? That's how you're going to react to this? You can't just say, don't agree. That's how you're going to react. Okay, just want to make sure that additional comments in response to this say, the first one here, this isn't even fun anymore. It's just sad at this point. This is mental illness showing itself. Coming up with loopholes. So, it looks like it's only a felony to plant it in the center of the field, so put it in an end zone or the 45-yard line. Soft-ass team for a soft-ass state. Put another pole on the other side, now it's a banner. No law against planting a banner. I've lost all hope and faith in the Ohio legislature. I'm embarrassed to be an Ohioan. What a bunch of sore losers they've become. No. Okay? Here's the problem. We think that the right thing to do when we win a college football game is to storm the field and to plant our flag at the center of the field. How about we just be happy? How about we just celebrate? How about we just handshake it? Hug our own teammates. Say, yeah, rather than rubbing it in the faces of our opponents and their fans. Instead of doing that and basically being the catalyst to spark this type of issue, why don't you look at yourself in the mirror, okay, and say, here's an idea. Maybe we're the ones who started this. We won. Great. Now we're going to rub it in the faces of the people we beat? Sounds kind of a lot like the election we just had, don't you think? This is really sad that this is the response to it. I mean, I'm just kind of scrolling through this, and basically everyone who's on this Reddit is saying similar stuff. Okay. Similarly, Barstool Sports. This is from Ohio's Tate, which is literally the name of the person who is credited with writing this. So obviously a pseudonym. And he says in his article, quote, "I saw this last night but didn't want to blog it. It's a publicity stunt and everyone knows it. But when Dave Portnoy tweets about it, the entire world finds out, and it's my job to make sure it gets up on our site. But the fact of the matter is that this is just a huge misuse of government time and money for a joke. I did 2 seconds of research and found out that this Josh Williams guy was born and raised in Toledo. Here he is." And he puts up a picture of him. And for those of you unaware, Toledo is closer to Ann Arbor than it is to Columbus by a long shot. More Michigan fans than Ohio State fans up there, and it's not even close. So now we're going to call into question the fandom of this congressman. And the guy posts on his Facebook almost daily about the Detroit Lions. So yeah, it all adds up. This guy is a Michigan fan that is trolling Ohio State with the most embarrassing softest idea of all time. And now On3 and Awful Announcing and now Barstool Sports are giving him the attention he wants. And it says here also, he goes, "If anyone proves he's an Ohio State fan and truly wants this bill passed, he needs to be impeached for being the biggest loser in world history. And if I'm right, which I am, that he's a Michigan fan, he needs to be impeached for using government time and money to make a mockery. Either way, this guy fucking sucks." Are we serious right now? That we're gonna just we're cool with that type of a response? I am just so I am so flabbergasted that the people who are shouting the loudest about this, the people who are bringing attention to this, are reacting the way that they are. Because we as a society have a bunch of people who act so immaturely over things. People saying things like when Juan Soto signed with the Mets, people posting and saying things that were reprehensible and whatnot. Okay, like really? Yeah, I didn't want to lose him either as a Yankee fan. But do you see me, calling him out, saying all these nasty things on social media? No, not really. Not really. I know how I feel about him. Okay. We move on. I'm at a loss for words trying to explain that although this is probably not the best use of the government's time, it suddenly is becoming that way because of the vitriol of response that we are getting as a result of it. The people who are against this are now proving the point for Williams that that we need to make changes like this. I'll tell you something. If I'm coaching Michigan in that scenario, and I got a player who goes and plants that flag like that, and this kind of stuff happens, I would destroy my player. I would destroy my team, my school, and just say, this is completely unacceptable. We won. That's great. It's a big game. But we're going to act this way? It's just, and the fact that people think that this is a joke or like, again, I don't know how many times I can say it. When I first read it, I did think might not be the best use of our government. And when you hear what people are saying, and I see how I'm reacting to it, I'm realizing I was wrong. We need this now. Get over yourselves, people. We can't have fights like this. We can't have incidents like this in our collegiate sports, in any sports. Stop it. Grow the hell up. It's that simple. Time to mature. Don't know how else to say it. I better stop myself right now because I'm getting heated about it, and I don't want that. If you think that this is a bad idea because it's soft and stuff like that, maybe you're the problem. I don't understand why we have to react the way that we are over this. I have pulled up the tweet here that Josh Williams put out about the whole thing. Robert Griffin III is the first to post, and all he did was post a picture of a person with his eyes closed, smoking a cigarette in some sort of disdain. The next one is a picture of Vladimir Putin extending a hand with the caption that says, "You should actively be cyberbullied." Next one. Well, there it is, the stupidest fucking thing I'll read all day. I am just so... It's so sad. It's just so sad. He's talking, in a later tweet, he says, "Great reporting by ESPN on the true intentions of this bill. Our rivalry is alive and well, but so is the risk of injury when we engage in this type of conduct." I am embarrassed because of how people are reacting to this. I am. It's not soft, okay? It's not. And I'm going to stand up and say it's not soft. Well, that'll do it for this episode of How You Play the Game. I'd like to thank you for joining me. As always, check us out at osipfoundation.org. Email the show at podcast@osipfoundation.org. Facebook.com/osipfoundation. X and Instagram at osipfoundation. Hashtag How You Play the Game. Hope you have a wonderful holiday season. We'll talk to everybody in the new year. And until then, treat each other with respect. How You Play the Game is a production of the OSIP Foundation, Incorporated. The producer-engineer of this episode is Sean Ryan. Music by Soundspring Studio. The executive producer of How You Play the Game is Jack Furlong. For more information, visit osipfoundation.org.